Hello and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. I'm Janna and I'm here to bring you the new challenge for the Funkie Junkie challenge blog. Our new theme is Icy and Cold, and it is cold here today. Today it has been a negative 21 degrees in Quebec. So it is only fitting that we're playing to the theme of Icy and Cold. This challenge is going to be open from January 26th through February 8th. To enter, head over to the Funkie Junkie Challenge blog or drop us a few images over on Instagram. Details of how to enter will be down in the description box. So today I'm going to be playing with two different icy cold mediums. I'm going to be working with some Distress Crackle paint, rock candy, and I'm also going to be looking at the Ranger Crackle paste, Icicle. So if you'd like to find out which materials I'm going to be using for this challenge, go ahead and pause. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, for the theme of icy and cold, we're going to be comparing two fantastic distress products that definitely give us the feel of ice and cold. To start with, we're going to be looking at the Tim Holtz Distress Crackle Paste Icicle. This stuff is fantastic and is going to give us an icy finish on the different substrates that we try it out on. Secondly, we're also going to be looking at Distress Crackle Paint Clear Rock Candy. This stuff is very interesting and it gives us a much thicker crackle when it's added to different substrates. So let's go ahead and add this to a few different items that I've die cut. Now for the die cuts today, I have been using the Tim Holtz Sizzix Bigs die Heartfelt. This is a classic die and just perfect for some basic shapes, and even better to test out some product on. So I've already got some pre-cut shapes here, and we're going to be adding the crackle paste to that as well as Icicle. So let's start off with the two shapes that already have some color on them. These are some scraps that I die cut into the shape of hearts. And to apply these two different mediums, I'm going to be using one of the Ranger Tim Holtz palette knives. Let's start off with the Distressed Crackle Paint first. So as we can see, this stuff is pretty thick, kind of semi-transparent right now, but it will dry transparent after it's been applied. It's pretty thick, kind of the texture of glue or slightly melted taffy. So let's go ahead and apply that to this first heart. Now when applying this, I like to be fairly generous and put this on like I was smothering peanut butter onto a slice of toast. We don't need to skimp on the crackle paste. The more product we put on, the bigger a crackle effect we're going to see later. So I'm just going to smooth that out on here. And then we'll set this first piece aside. Okay. That looks pretty good. Oh, missed a little spot here. Okay. As you can see, this is now coated in a thick coat of Distress Crackle Paste Rock Candy. Now, I'm just going to quickly wipe off the palette knife, and then we're going to add some Icicle to our other heart. Now, looking at Icicle, this stuff is more like mayonnaise. It's fairly thin, and it even has this really lovely shine. Let's see if I can get that to pick it up. There we go. As we can see, there's a little bit of glitter floating in here, which is just gorgeous. All right, let's go ahead and spread some of this on our second heart. So as we can see, the consistency is much thinner and a bit more runny. And for this one, I'm just going to smooth that on. Gonna put it down in different directions. There we go. Turn, get a little bit more from the jar, and finish smoothing that onto the heart. Okay. We can see that layer of Icicle. And again, we'll just set this aside to dry. Next, I'm going to pull in a few more hearts, and these are blank. We're going to alter these after the Distress Crackle paste and the Icicle dries. And we're going to be altering these a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put this part on fast forward while I add some Crackle and some Icicle to each set of hearts. Okay, and I've set aside the hearts for now. We will check back on these once they've had a chance to dry. Now, let's see how these two different mediums react when used through a stencil. I'm going to be using a substrate of some of the Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock. And for stencils, I'm going to start with the THS 077 stencil. I love this one. The flowers are just gorgeous. So we're going to put that right here. And we're going to put some of the Distress Crackle through it. Okay, take that. And again, I'm going to be using the little Ranger spatula. Okay, let's see. I'm going to bring this down just a little closer. Good. So I think I'm going to just put this on. And we're just going to go all the way. Okay, and here is our finished stenciling. Ooh, these look Great, we have the Distress Crackle paint on the left-hand side and Icicle on the right. Now, dry time for these is going to vary. If you live in a drier climate, the drying time is going to be shorter. If you live someplace kind of humid, like lower Quebec, drying time is going to take longer. I'm going to give these about an hour before I check back on them. Okay, and we are back to take a look at the results of our Crackle Distress paint and Icicle. So here are the results with the hearts. So the first hearts I want to show you are the ones that I use the mediums over colored backgrounds already. So this one is the Distress Crackle paint. As we can see, we've got some lovely crackles on here, and we can see the medium through it that we put it over. And this is Icicle. These are much larger fissures, and as it suggests, these are more like icy cracks than crackles. So let's bring out these crackles and icy fissures with a bit of Distress ink. To do that, I'm going to be grabbing some walnut stain and an ink dabber. So I'm just going to ink this up, zoom the camera down just a little bit, and we're going to push some of that ink into the crackles. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my finger and rub. Okay, now that we added some ink to this, we can see the lines slightly more defined than before. Let's do the same thing with Icicle and see how that works. Interesting, so this doesn't take the ink on the same way that the Crackle does. These lines are actually tighter and closer packed together, so there isn't really much room for the ink to squish in between. Let me just give this a quick rub. I'll take a second look. Yeah, some of the ink got in there, but this is very subtle in comparison to what we could get with the Crackle. So two different effects, each really cool. Okay, let's go ahead and alter some of our crackled hearts. So I have these 3 hearts, and I'm going to be using some Distress spray stain to give them a bit of color. So I think I'll start with a little one, and this one we're just going to do a single tone, and I'm just going to give this a quick spritz of water and then a dash of Kitsch Flamingo. And at once we have got color. So let's bring this closer to take a look. As we can see, the color has seeped in through the little cracks, and we still have some little white spots, but this is definitely giving us a really cool effect. Neat. Let's see how that same thing works when we do that with some of the hearts that we used Icicle on. So I'll just take a heart and again spritz it with water, and we'll add the spray stain. Okay, this is sitting more on top, but if we move it around with our finger a little bit, ooh, that does go into the cracks. This is much more subtle than the Crackle paint, but we still get the definite pink color. I like that. That is really neat. So I'd say this is kind of like more sparkly and crackled, but this is icy and fishery. That is really cool. Neat. Let's set those two aside. Okay, now for the other hearts, we're going to do a little bit of mixing and matching with colors. I want to try to do 2 rainbow hearts and then a couple of gradients. Okay, so I'll start with the Distress Crackle paint. We'll just add on little spritzes of color here and there. See what happens. Neat. Oh, I think I want a little bit more pink at the bottom. There we go. All right, and I'm going to quickly dry this off so that we have a better idea of what we're seeing. Ooh, that looks really pretty. We've got a bit of a rainbow gradient going on, and we still have the crackle and shine. It looks like shattered glass like this. Okay, let's try that with Icicle. So put that there, splash of water, and now some color. Okay, and a little bit more of the kitsch flamingo. Okay, so this one seems to have absorbed more color. And again, we've got the really cool fissures. So I'll stop for just a moment and dry this off and we'll take a closer look. Looks good. So this seems to have seeped in a bit more and it looks great. Both of these have a unique look to them and a different feel. So either way, it looks like a win. Okay, so we've got 2 more hearts and I'm going to do a simple gradient with these and I think we'll do them both at the same time. Splash of water. We'll do a little bit of pink across the top. Then some Salvaged patina. And last, a dash of Mermaid Lagoon. We're a little heavy with the mermaid. That's okay. Just add that back in. There we go. I'm liking that. Okay. So both seem to have absorbed the spray stain pretty fast. I'm noticing that we're getting a little bit of pooling with the spray stain on the icicle. I'm guessing that's probably because the little fissures here are closer together than the crackles in the Distress Crackle paint. These seem to have wider gaps between each of the little crackle sections. But again, both have a pretty cool look to them. Okay. So we'll just set these aside. I'll quickly wipe off my surface and now we're going to turn our attention to the 2 large panels that we added Icicle and Distress Crackle paint to. So let's take a look at the Icicle first. So we can see we've got the dainty little lines on here and that's really nice. Our stencil, we can tell exactly what we stenciled, which is great. Now looking at the Distress Crackle paint, we're noticing more of a shattered glass look going on here, much bigger cracks, and again, the integrity seems to be holding up really well. The stencil shape is still very clear, no smushiness, no smearing. So both of these work great through a stencil. Okay, well, let's start with this one, and we're going to add some water. And now let's add some color to this. I think we're going to do a little bit of a mixture of Mermaid Lagoon, Salvaged patina, and the kitsch flamingo. Oh, maybe just these 2. Actually, yeah, I changed my mind. We'll leave off Mermaid Lagoon for now. This looks great. Okay, let's put this on fast forward for a moment while I dry this off. Okay, and here is our dried background. While I was drying, I also added in some sprinkles of water to get the distress look going on this background. Now, I want to highlight these cracks a little bit more, and to do that, I'm going to smush in a bit of picket fence. So I'm going to just try that down over here on this one leaf, just to make sure this is going to work really well. I have done this before, but different colors require different add-ins. So just smush that. Let's try a little more. Okay, yep. I like that. Nice and subtle, but there. So I'm going to continue to add a bit of Distress Crayon over parts of this background. Okay, so just smushing the Distress Crayon in here and there. And that's just highlighting some of these wonderful little crackly bits. Okay, I think I want to add just a little bit more around here. That looks really good. Maybe a little bit more up at the corner. Okay. So depending on what colors you use, you could definitely highlight the little crackly bits with different colors of Distress Crayon. Definitely walnut stain would look really good if you're going for something more grungy. I'm kind of in a pastel mood, so I decided to go with some picket fence. Okay, and I would call this background done. We'll come back to it in a little bit, but right now let's move on to Icicle. So for Icicle, again, we're going to spritz with water, and we're going to add in our colors. So a little Mermaid Lagoon, bit of mustard seed, and some Kitsch Flamingo. Nice, colorful background. There we go. All right, so again, I'll put this on fast forward while we dry this off. Okay, and there is our finished background. Here we can see that Icicle acted more as a resist and kept a lot of the areas where we'd stenciled almost crispy and white, but there's just a little bit of a hint of color fade underneath. That looks pretty cool. And here we go, we've got some nice icy flowers. So here are our two backgrounds, and in just a moment, we're going to transform these into two sparkling icy cards. For the first card, I'm going to be adding a ornate frame from one of the Tim Holtz Sizzlet and Presslet dies. I'm going to put that on here, and then I'm going to back that with a little scrap of some Idea-ology ephemera. So let's go ahead and attach that. Just add a little bit of collage medium around the edge of this frame. And we'll stick that on. And I'm going to add some collage medium along the back of this. Now for the frame, I die cut this using some of the Tim Holtz Idea-ology metallic silver cardstock, and then I decided to sprinkle the frame with some distress glitter, and for adhesive I decided to use some Ranger glossy accents, hoping to give this a more icy kind of look. Okay, so we'll just stick the frame right on here, make sure that's centered. Then we're going to take one of our Distress Crackly hearts, and we're going to add that into the middle of this frame with, of course, a bit of collage medium. So just stick that there, and I'm going to hold that for a moment. Now while I'm holding this, I'm also going to add a little stamp in the corner. Since Valentine's is around the corner, it's like, why not? Let's go for a slightly Valentine's themed card. And so we're going to add some more hearts, and this is from the Crazy Things stamp collection, and I'll just quickly ink that with a little bit of archival black soot, and we'll flip this over and add a nice little heart stamp in the corner. Just like that. That looks cute. All right, and to finish this little card off, I am going to be adding a sentiment across the front. Let's see, the sentiment that we're going to be using today is going to be listen to your heart. We'll just stick that right here. All right. So I think the last thing I want to do is add just a little bit more color around the edge to kind of act as an anchor. We've got a little bit of purple going on, so let's add in a little bit of wilted violet just around the edges here. There we go. There we go, darken up that corner a little bit, and I'm just applying the ink with a circular motion. I'll try to fade it out over here. I pushed a little bit too hard and I've got a little bit of smudging that I'm not such a fan of. Okay, not quite getting rid of that smudge, but you know what? A couple of little water droplets will fix that. And then I'll just use a cloth to dab off the extra water. All right, and this is our first card, and this was using the Distress Crackle paint. And we can see all of that nice sparkle and shine. Very icy. Okay, let's take a look at our second background, and we'll add some pieces to it to finish it off. All right, so again, I'm going to start with some ephemera from Idea-ology. Add a bit of collage medium to that. And I also found a sparkling flower in my stash that I had die cut from the Holtz Sizzix die set Colorize Bloom. So using a bit of alcohol ink cardstock, I had die cut this flower, and I had colored that with icy blue tones, and that's going to go perfectly onto this card. All right, so a little bit of collage medium, then we'll add that to the card. So trying to stick with the icy cold theme, I looked for pieces that have some icy sparkle to them. Now, while February is very cold, we can still play with icy and cold by using textures and substrates. Okay, hold that down for a moment. And while that is setting, I also found an icy blue butterfly. And this was cut from an alcohol ink background. That'll make another nice addition to this card. Okay, bit of collage medium. And we'll stick that over here. Good. And then we will add a sentiment to the bottom of this card. For this card, I want to use the sentiment Shine Brightly. And we'll put that right over here. And this card was made using the Tim Holtz Ranger Icicle Medium. So let's take a look at our two cards side by side. Today, we have been playing to the theme of Icy and Cold. I decided to pull out all of my Tim Holtz Ranger mediums that make me think of ice and cold. Over on this side, we have used Distress Crackle Paint Rock Candy to create a fun, crackly, icy background, as well as a shattered glass type heart. To add some more sparkle and ice, I added some Distress glitter to this frame that I die cut with some of the Tim Holtz Idea-ology metallic cardstock. So we've got ice and some cool cold glitter, and I even threw in some cool distress colors. We added in some Mermaid Lagoon, Salvaged patina, and Kitsch Flamingo, which borders on the cold side, having a bit more of a purplish tinge, especially when mixed with other colors. Over here, we used the Tim Holtz Ranger Medium Icicle, and this gave us some beautiful icy fissures on our card. Then we paired that with some sparkling icy alcohol ink cardstock, and again I used some cool tones to create this little flower from the Bloom Colorized set. Then to finish off the look, we added an alcohol inked butterfly, and this was done with the colors Monsoon and Glacier, both nice icy colors. Thank you so much for joining me here today while playing to the theme of Icy and Cold. Don't forget that you too can join the fun challenge over at the Funkie Junkie blog. I'll be sure to leave a link down in the description box. And if you would like more written details and photos, head on over to my blog, which will also be linked in the description box. Thank you so much for joining me today for the theme of Icy and Cold. And until next time, happy crafting!